Alrighty, here we are. It is Sunday afternoon today. Ah, live. And I know originally I was going to talk about good cults versus bad cults, but I just didn't really have the time to get that together. It's not that I can't mention it or talk about it. I ran a podcast for years talking about cults, and I had a website that outlined, all the distinctions of cults, but there is a difference. There is benign, but that'll have to be for another week. This is kind of up in the air. I've got a few things to talk about. We're going to kind of briefly update on Perez Hilton, which is really spooky, and kind of mention the Candace Owens Andrew Wilson debate and how rather silly and crazy. And I've got some clips on plasma and the universe, some little Age of Aquarius, Neptune entering Aries. A little clip to talk about that. Maybe we'll talk about Ouija boards and algorithms and whatever you guys have going on out there. Feel free to bring up something weird and crazy in the comments or if you're live. And remember, of course, if you are listening to this podcast on audio, whether you're on Apple or Spotify or Google or whatever platform you prefer, don't forget to give this show 5 stars in the ratings. And then, of course, if you're live, click that thumbs up button right away and even save it to one of your playlists. Maybe a watch later, put a comment in. And of course, if you are not subscribed to the channel and you want to check out more, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel right now. It's at Melissa Dawn Show. I changed the handle because I know we're called Welcome or the Clusterfuck because this is what we're living in right now. But I changed the handle because when I would go and comment in other people's live, it would come up the Clusterfuck. So I thought, yeah, I'll just put my name on the handle so people don't freak out too much. I'm like, I'll give them that. I'll give them that. I like to be respectful in other people's rooms. I don't like to troll them or put crazy stuff. So there we go. There we go. But yes, we are streaming live right now, by the way. We are, of course, on YouTube. We are on Substack. We are on Twitch. And we are on Rumble. Rumble. I put it back on Rumble. So if you got a Rumble account, you can go over there. I will update all the links on the website pretty quick here today. We've got Incognito in the chat. Say hello to a couple of you. John aside. Just got in from grocery shopping. I'm glad you guys stocked up for the week. And Kirby, one of our continuing viewers, thank you for stopping by. So hopefully a few more of you will come by and join in. And I don't know what's weird going out there spiritually. It's funny because I have a whole bunch of thoughts during the week, and then it seems like the inspiration comes, and if I'm not somewhere where I can write it down, it goes. And then I'm like, I wanted to talk about something. What was it again? And then it's gone. Do you guys get that where it's there and then it's gone and you can't grasp it anymore? And Eric Merrick has arrived, another supporting member. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Eric, and thank you for coming by. It is so bizarre and strange out there. We're going to start off. I'm trying to give you guys some time to stream in, because it gets started. Sometimes YouTube can take up to an hour to let people know this stream is going, which is a little bit frustrating. So we'll get into the couple of news stories, which is we're going to update on Perez Hilton. That's kind of a little spooky, some of the updates. We're going to talk about Candace Owens. And, if I might take a break, I might not. We'll see how the dogs do. And we'll get into the plasma, Neptune, Age of Aquarius, and maybe talk about a little bit of Ouija board. Something like that. You guys can share your experiences. I don't have as nefarious of a view about a lot of the paranormal. I think we'll get into what I think when we get to the story. Okay, so let's go into our first one with Perez Hilton. We talked about him last week. And we all know that his live with his self-harming stuff went really crazy, really viral. and people were trying to come up with all sorts of ideas of what happened. There's the people are vindictive. They're mad because he was a very toxic kind of, you know, media reporter, gossip, or really just really vindictive against celebrities who were suffering with drug issues and, you know, shaming their bodies, et cetera, which is ironic considering he's a heavy man. But it comes out, of course, that he is being treated at the hospital for, and I can't say it because it will down the algorithm, but attempted unaliving. I have to say it that way, and a drug overdose. And funny, Candace Owens had mentioned this. And I don't know if you guys remember when we did our show on kind of demon possession, and the fellow that I was showing the clips with was talking about drug overdose and methamphetamines and heroin and stuff being like this kind of gateway in which demons enter. Now, I don't know if you guys believe in this kind of thing, if you believe in demons, but his sister, her depiction of the events, because his children and his family were there when he started this. And she said, in an exclusive interview with Page Six, Hilton's younger sister, Barbara Levandra, is breaking her silence, talking about the events leading up to this whole stream. Let's see. Let's get down to the part where she talks about what actually happening to him. But I might have to paraphrase this because this article. Oh. Now I have to click on another link. What's going on here? Continue reading. Here we go. She's saying, Mario, that's Perez, was in his bedroom with the door closed and locked, which wasn't like him. His door was almost always open. When I knocked, he said he was fine, but I could barely hear him. After I knocked a few more times and asked him to open the door, he stopped responding. I tried calling his cell phone in case he couldn't hear me, but he wouldn't answer. Something just felt wrong. I unlocked his bedroom door and realized he was inside the bathroom. I knocked several more times and told him I was going to come in if he didn't open the door. He still didn't answer, so I unlocked it. When I opened the door, my nightmare became a reality. Mario was standing in front of the shower, naked, cut up, covered in BLOOD, with a box cutter in his hand. What I can say with certainty is that I didn't recognize my brother when I looked at him. I saw it in his eyes. They didn't look the same. Then a split second later, he smiled at me. It felt like I was staring at someone else. That was her exact declaration of what happened. She felt like she was staring at someone else. Now that can happen with the drug overdose claims. That's what he's being treated with. But remember, we talked about this kind of weird spiritual crisis in our society today where people are pumping out these bad drugs. We're not talking about healing or psychedelics. We're talking about really toxic stuff that allows something into your brain and mind and makes you do crazy things. Now, remember when Perez Hilton started out, before he was PerezHilton.com, what was it he called? 666 something? Like he spelled it wasn't the number 6, he spelt it out. It was called 666, page 666 or something like that. I'll get the that's what he started out with. That's really bizarre. And we had a really interesting comment about him from one of our regulars under the yeah, it was page 666, SIX. That was originally what he was blogging under and reporting on celebrity, page 666. And Let me see if I can get that comment because somebody thinks it was done on purpose, like it was some kind of weird ritual, and they could be wrong. I don't know that. I mean, everything claims that he started everything himself, but you kind of find it hard to believe that he wouldn't be in on something with somewhere, something like that, especially once he started to get famous. But page 666 is an interesting name for your thing. Okay, here it is. Fenix53, who comes around here a lot, regular viewer. He said Hilting could be going through a ritual to progress his career, or his MK Ultra programming is falling apart. In the hospital now to be reprogrammed. Well, he's certainly going for therapy. And I responded, that's an interesting take on it. It is weird how they let it run live for so long because anything else would have been shut down like pronto. And Fennec said, exactly, this should have been taken down straight away, but it was allowed to run for over half an hour, reeks of a ritual to me. So he felt it was very suspicious because of how long they let it run. But there's just some strange stuff about this with the whole history of him. And so we know drugs do make people behave like this, but do they allow some kind of evil force to come in? Now, I'm not one of these people. One of the things that bother me about, demons and possessions is a lot of people use it as like a political attack. Like if you say something they don't like, you're possessed by demons, everything's demons. Like they don't really understand the criteria or they don't care. They just use it as an attack. That stuff is just silly. Not everything's a demon. When you come up to something like this that's so graphic and horrific and really extreme, and it's clear they're on some kind of substance of sorts, you got to ask yourself some questions about what's going on and you know, when the ancients were talking about demon possession, were they referring to some situation like this? But that is the update on Perez, is what his sister saw, really dark, not like himself, and that he is being treated for attempted unaliving and a drug overdose. Tara says, I love your show. Something about my voice. Oh, well, that's really kind of you to say. Um, If he comes out with platinum hair, we'll know. Um, then she says, TikTok suspends me for what the TV says in the background 100%. So yeah, that is odd. They'll suspend you, like you get caught within seconds for things. I mean, the the fact that this was allowed, and this is a high profile personality. This isn't just even a small channel who like maybe 3 people watch them like my channel. This is a high profile individual who lots of people tune into, that they let that run for that long. Yeah, very bizarre. Very bizarre. Distraction? I don't know. But his sister felt like she wasn't even dealing with her brother Mario, aka Perez Hilton. Just really disturbing stuff in disturbing times, but I digress. You have to hold strong. He'll get the help that he needs. He's got the people working on it, and hopefully they really do help him. I don't know. Very strange stuff. But I think it's the energy of that kind of gossip where it's like you kind of build up an entity when you're that kind of like, she's fat, she's this, when you're stalking people in that way and relentlessly. And some people are going to probably make that claim about Candace, but I think Candace is bringing some receipts and facts. And, we're dealing with a real crime with Candace, real stuff. But I think when it's that catty, like, oh my, like, you remember those early 2000s, they had most of us thinking we were morbidly obese. And when you go back and you look at some of the pictures of the actress, these actresses were starving. They were like underweight, you know. They were promoting serious body dysmorphia, body, not eating, like really thin, a weight you could never keep for very long, just really unhealthy. And John at the side reminds us that mental illness is real, 100%. And when you combine it with drug use, there's so many ironies because he used to go after people for their drug use and harass them and not give him the peace that his family's asking for. And I think you should allow him the peace. I don't think you should be like old Perez Hilton and make too much fun of him. I mean, I hope he gets the peace he's looking for. But there are some people who believe he's programmed. He's part of the system. And maybe you build some kind of strange, like I said in the first show, a lot of his stuff and his criticisms and his writings, I think, were projections of his own inner demons. And here you go. Hopefully he gets some help for that. Now, I mean, what would the show be? We had Ryder Lee on and we were talking about the Charlie Kirk stuff. So this kind of ties into the Charlie Kirk. It kind of ties into Charlie a little bit when we're going to talk about Andrew Wilson and Candace Owens. I really didn't tune in for their debate. I caught snippets of it. Oh yeah, Tara's reminding me of the heroin chic being prompted. That was really disturbing stuff and really dark music. There's a lot of music I listened to as a Gen Xer, a younger Gen Xer, that I can't listen to now because it makes me depressed because it's totally heroin chic. It's just really bad. It's just bad for the soul. And that was put out there intentionally on purpose. Yeah. Just crazy stuff right from the get-go. But on to Candace Owens. Before we get into the woo-woo, the plasma. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys, I was on Walter Bosley's show. It's a pre-record, and we might have to re-record. I don't know. They did something. We were just having a discussion about the age of Aquarius, which I'll give a little snippet of a clip I looked at later, or I have later about planet stuff. But I don't know if they're going to put it out and edit what we got and then do a part 2 or restream or redo the whole thing. But there were some technical issues, so we'll see what happens with that. It was interesting. It was an interesting conversation. So what would be unfortunate is if half of it's lost. And now I have to rethink about what I said. I'm like, do I even remember what I said? Because sometimes I wing things. We'll get it. we'll get it eventually. It'll come out. And of course, September 4th, I'm going to be on Chris Matthews' show, the Forbidden News Network. So I will give you guys the link when that happens. I think we'll talk about the same thing. We'll talk about Aquarius. I'll get some more info. Candace Owens, Andrew Wilson. It was considered the great debate. I don't think there was anything great about it. I did not want to watch it because Andrew Wilson irritates me to no end. He is not a debater. He's a rage baiter. He tries to aggravate people. He's abusive. His whole shtick is he goes on this whatever podcast and he targets only fangirls, and he doesn't, really say anything of substance. He just targets, gaslights, word salad, switches it around, trying to make these girls get enraged so they can have a clip or two. He's a massive, massive hypocrite. He's just incredibly ignorant. He's calls himself a great debater, and he goes on Candace Owens' show, probably allegedly on behalf of TPUSA, and all we really saw was a great foot shaker. He was twitching like he was coming down off of something, like he was nervous. He reminds me of this business partner of my ex-husband, this slimy, smarmy mofo. Like every time I see him, I'm like, I cannot watch this man. He's really slimy, and he does not debate in good faith. He doesn't listen to anyone. He's there to divert, distract, deflect, confuse everything. And that's what I believe. That's what I believe was going on there, is TPUSA is trying to put out so much chaos and ridiculous stuff that it distracts you from what they're really doing. It's like, look over here with Candace and Andrew Wilson, distracts Candace. He just presented the most craziest stuff. He was just so smug and arrogant. You just want to wipe it off his face at minimal. And you can go watch it. A lot of people are talking about it. There were so many things he said that were ridiculous. And one point, I believe he made the claim, and I'm going to be paraphrasing here. He said something to the tune in reference to people talking about when Charlie was hit, because we don't know what he was hit with. We're pretty sure it's not 30-06, but his t-shirt kind of did something weird. It kind of floofed up, and his necklace kind of went, psh, and that was really weird. Like, it didn't physiologically, physics-wise, make sense. And so to gaslight us, this is what this guy says. He either said it to Candace on X, but to gaslight us is make us think we're stupid and he knows more. He claims he's a gunsmith. Is really incredible. He says, "Oh, that t-shirt kind of coming up like that could be, it could be, folks, that it's some kind of airflow, wind flow from the muzzle of the gun or the end of the gun that made that happen." And I'm sitting here thinking, what are you talking about, bro? Because at the same time that he says this, they want us to believe that a man did the shot from a roof 170 feet away. How could that be airflow from the, like, see what I mean? They know it's stupid. They know some people are stupid enough to believe that. But then they want to make it dumb, so you can't, you're like, those two things can't be the same. So if you're saying that it's airflow from the gun muzzle, from the end of the gun as it fires, then they couldn't have happened from 170 feet away. Just really ridiculous stuff. Just really arrogant claims like, I'm going to prove that Candace has no facts. The woman has showed evidence after evidence after evidence after evidence. It's astounding. It was, the bits that I watched were so astounding to watch him. He couldn't even list all 7 charges. He didn't even know what the charges were, but he's overwhelmingly sure that Tyler Robinson did it, but he didn't even know what Tyler Robinson was charged with. So how could you overwhelmingly know? What it shows is he literally read his speech from his phone, and he's just been ordered by TPUSA, given a thing. He's saying he has proof that Charlie sent a text the day before from Erica saying that the left was after him. It's like, really, that's interesting. Why didn't they bring this out? Oh, I don't know, 10 months ago when people were showing proof of Israel? It's because it's fake. It's all made up. And then he wouldn't show anybody the screenshot of the text. He wouldn't show anybody the text. I'll show it later on my show. He's hoping everybody's dumb, but nobody's quite as dumb as Andrew. Jonathan said, oh, okay. That's who I thought he was. I didn't know. He is exactly that guy. He's from that really lame whatever podcast. He runs another one of his own. His wife and him, I mean, she's more like his mother, and she's overbearing, really obnoxious. She enters arguments for him. She'll literally enter arguments for him. It's really bizarre. They trashed a lesbian girl, Enemy Charlie, her name is, on TikTok, on the whatever podcast show, because he pointed out all the fallacies of him trashing promiscuous women. Meanwhile, his wife, Rachel, has 3 baby daddies. That kind of stuff. He was really vulgar about her being a lesbian, but allegedly their stepdaughter, Andrew Wilson's stepdaughter, is a lesbian. So you see this crap all the time with these guys. It's just constant projection, where they I mean, I think if I had Andrew Wilson as a model of a man, I'd probably, for a stepfather, I'd probably be a lesbian too, to be quite honest with you. That would destroy it all for me. But just kind of a shit show. And I think most people were like, Candace won. But it wasn't really even a fair debate. They had that Patrick Bet David. He was moderating it, and he was a terrible moderator, because if he was a good moderator, he would have told Andrew to shut up some more time and let Candace finish. And that's the thing. Divert, deflect, switch it around, not make sense, make so many claims that nobody can parse it out in real time, and then interrupt so nobody can get out their facts and try to rush them. Come on. Just a real sleazy guy. And that's all I have to say about him. I couldn't sit through 4 hours of that. There was absolutely no way that was going to happen. There's lots of people talking about it. Ian Carroll broke it down really good. There was just so many things that I think Candace could have shown that he's an absolute hypocrite and didn't know what he's talking about. but I think it's probably harder live. It's probably more challenging live considering his tactics are really kind of sleazy. He's got some sleazeball tactics, and definitely don't go watch his podcast. Don't watch that whatever podcast unless you want to see a guy take shots at women and call them whores and you lick schniz and crappy things like that. That's it. I mean, I don't even know, what the purpose of these debates are half the time. Like, I don't. My guess is to muddy the water. And on this show, I always say, when it comes to instinct and knowing things, you can't have a good instinct if your emotional platform basis isn't calm. It's like you can't know what's crazy if everything's crazy. You have to let everything stay calm. You have to be a calm, centered person so your instincts can work and be like, okay, that's happening. That's happening. And you're not gaslit. If you're in trauma all the time and you're always emotional and everything's around, your instincts can't work because they have no neutral baseline of emotions, no calm place in which to judge things from. And I think that's the point. You can't judge things. You can't make a good decision on things if you've got all these people who are, muddying the water, rippling, making chaos, emotionally triggering you all the time. You can't be calm. It makes it harder to discern with your intuition and your instinct. It just clouds it. That's why we have to go and check out and sit down and chill out. You know what I mean? That's just my philosophy. Whether you agree with it or not, I mean, that's up to you guys. Cheerios. But let's move on into some more interesting paranormal stuff and spooky stuff because I'm really winging it here. We've got, I got like, speaking of demons, there's this idea that AI is ushering in so can be possessed. But I don't know. I think there can be a little bit of I think we have a lot to do with it. I don't think things can be possessed unless we're interacting with it. And it's a lot to do with the organic. And I think they might want to think that you can just have AI and robots, but I don't know. I have this suspicion. Suspicion. Let's start with plasma actually. I think it would be a good idea to talk about plasma. We can take a little bit of a break. I can let the dogs out, and then we can come back and talk about some Age of Aquarius and the Ouija board stuff and the AI being demonic. I mean, we really do have an obsession with the demonic. And I don't know, maybe we can break this down and decide whether we have demons or whether we don't. It could be a little bit of both. All right. And when I say plasma, by the way, I don't mean like plasma in your blood, although it could be the macro and the micro. You know what I mean? Like the universe could be full of plasma, and we're floating along in it. And this is very similar to a system that's happening within our own bodies. I think that's what I am getting at here. But there's this idea of plasma with in connection to paranormal events, psychic communication. And I'm going to show you a little video here that will probably describe it a little bit better than I can. She's really good. We've got that and another one. So let's give it a listen.
Oh, you are going to want to listen to this. Have you heard of the hitchhiker effect? Basically, when you go to a paranormal hotspot, something supposedly can follow you home. Well, guess what? It can be explained by plasma science, and you have control over this. You're going to be okay. We don't have to live in this fear paradigm no longer. And the science of plasma can actually tell you when you go to these vortexes, these plasma vortexes, these hotspots, I'll explain, how you can have better experiences. So I've been talking about this in my book, A New Force, which is about plasma and consciousness and new human potential and how we co-create with reality, and that plasma makes up the fabric of our reality. It is like the cosmic ocean, and all other matter, solid, liquid, gas arise out of plasma and go back to plasma. Trust me, you'll hear about it soon if you haven't already. And I came across this book by Kevin Can called Plasma, Space Weather, and the Paranormal. And it basically explains with math by lining up dates and solar events or plasma events. It explains a lot of UFO sightings, a lot, even cattle mutilations. It's kind of interesting. A cattle mutilation is kind of similar to this random thing that happened in Lake Neos, where this invisible cloud of carbon dioxide came out of a lake and killed all these people and livestock. Not the same thing. Basically, there's like a weird plasma thing where that can happen too, I guess. For all intents and purposes, we're going to focus today on the vortex. Because if you are going to somewhere like Skinwalker Ranch, basically any vortex hotspot, Sedona, Egypt, these have more plasma vortexes than normal places. There might be more plasma weather. Okay, what is the science? How do you protect yourself? Basically, in Kevin's book, he talks about how, let's say there's a solar flare. In rural places versus the city, there is more dusty plasma, and it grabs onto the ions from the solar flare. In cities, less than 1% of ions reach the ground. Now they are electrified. Our local electric field changes. Basically, this is the whole chain of events. It also can cause cars to stall, certain older ones. There is some weird link between plasma and our consciousness. Where there's more plasma events, there is more anomalous visual optical sightings. We can experience them through our olfactory system, our nose. You may smell sulfur or ozone. Your brain makes meaning out of these. They're very real events. Something conscious can come through, by the way. Other interdimensional beings can be there, communicating through plasma. The difference is most of us are in states of fear or attachment. We only see what's projecting out of our subconscious versus what's really trying to communicate with us. Plasma is a bridge between worlds. Hitchhiker event, making meaning of these plasma things, lights, aliens, visions, keeping attention on it, and then it feels like it's following you home. This is how you stop it. Take a screenshot. Screenshot this. The next time you go to a vortex, do these things. In a state of play, no expectations. Comment plasma for the link to my book and his.
Very interesting, the hitchhiker effect. She's basically saying, people like demons, things are attaching to me, and she's linking it to plasma. And I don't fully understand the whole concept. I'm sure that book would actually be good to listen to. I wonder if I can get it in audio, because it kind of makes sense when you're dealing with things like Ouija boards or stuff like that, that you're engaging in something in a field, right? And she's talking about how more of this stuff happens out in the open fields, out in rural areas than in urban areas. And I was saying this, that, the creation of larger cities and urban cities, I think a lot of paranormal events have, for most people, especially if you live in these urban cities and dealing with technology, it's sort of interfered in this process. And so I find it interesting for her to talk about this whole element with plasma in rural areas where you get, ranches seeing aliens and UFOs. And then she comes to the level where, we're kind of reflecting on this. There's a reflection of us if we go in there terrified or scared because we've watched scary stuff or we've watched the TV shows about Skinwalker Ranch. We're going to experience certain things, that there's certain things we can protect. Go in there with a neutral curiosity. Stop projecting your fears and your anxieties onto these uh, locations. So it's very interesting stuff, plasma. And I've got another one. Oh, we got to go to the other one because I think that'll tie it up. Let me know what you think, if you guys have ever had any strange experience. I've known my husband had a weird, what he thought might have been like a skinwalker type of experience. And I don't think he was near an urban setting when he had it. I mean, he can weigh in if he wants, but there's something very weird that happens, like almost like a heightened, like your skin is standing on the edge of its neck. Like you can feel the environment changes when you have these experiences. So it's interesting. And I think there's a lot of groups that go out looking for this stuff. They train themselves how to see events. They might even use this book where they're looking for UFOs or they're looking for some kind of strange contact. And it would explain why some people aren't experiencing them and others are. But then, do you let it hitch home with you? Do you let it attach to you? Do you drag it with you? Or do you project your stuff out on this? And are you interacting with a field that's almost like an algorithm that will play back for you what you want? That will be like Nietzsche's, you know, abyss, where you stare into it. You go seeking monsters and monsters come back, or do you go with a neutral outlook on it? It's why I'm skeptical of a lot of people's Ouija boards experiences being a necessarily demon, and I think a lot of it boils down to their own individual. Let's see what we've got here. Yeah, he was in Skinwalker Country in New Mexico. It was eerie experience from old to young. Genocide said, I've had experiences, but nothing followed me home. That's a good. Maybe you had that neutral thing where it couldn't get to you. I've had people tell me that things follow them home, but I myself have never had that. Um, and again, I'm going to point to that person's like need to have things follow them home. That individual who told me that they had a very interesting, actually diagnosed personality disorder. So I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. It was interesting. But let's go back and have another look at plasma, because it's something I kind of want to keep looking at, because I think you could actually interact with it and have find out where these portals, where these areas are, and yeah, have authentic experiences and not have it be a nightmare. If you can understand and control it, where you're not running out thinking everything is demons, right? Everything is demons. Let's keep going. We got this other video. Spiritual forces are plasma. That's what the video's titled.
Let's look at how plasma actually operates. Not in terms of how it behaves in a laboratory and what it does in physics, but rather the mechanics behind it that we've observed and are repeated across all scales of the universe. First, plasma has been demonstrated to form double helix structures and then form itself into cords or long strains that resemble coaxial cords or just wires in general. These are structures commonly called Birkeland currents, and they exist between solar systems and even galaxies. This self-organizing double helix structure resembles DNA in ways that we still haven't quite understood. And it appears that when energy organizes itself, it typically arranges itself in these double helix patterns. Another amazing feature of plasma that we've recognized is that when plasma is able to self-organize itself around a central core point, it's able to form outer layers or outer shells around it that are commonly called double layers. And in between those double layers and the core can be any gradations of density of electric charge or energy in different regions. The closer you are to the center, the more dense the energy is. And these double layers can actually stack one on top of each other, creating concentric rings or spheres around that central point. And we've seen them go as far as many numbers out, not just a single one. You can see this most clearly if you look at the different atmospheric layers of the Earth, such as the ionosphere, the magnetosphere. This self-organizing shell, double layers, this outer barrier, has even been observed at the far reaches of our solar system.
Very spooky. You can see it's not like just some dead energy, some dead thing floating around. It's actually consciousness. It's forming structures. And the structures, I think, that can interact with us, maybe even store, maybe it's how memory and information get stored. We don't know the possibilities of this plasma. And a lot of people won't talk about it in this paranormal way. You kind of have to go through the area. I'll tell you one podcast that is talking about it that way, and that is that Acid for Squares. And I think that first girl I showed, I think she's actually been a guest on Acid for Squares. But Journal of Scientific Exploration has a massive PDF on exploring the link between paranormal phenomena and plasma. They've got ectoplasma, but look at those pictures from the spiritual age where you had people with plasma. It looked like a paper mache. That was all being faked. But there really is some kind of unseen, double helix formation that gets formed out there. It's not just in our body. So it's almost like it's in our body and we're floating in some version that's like, it's almost like we're floating are we floating in a gigantic body? I don't know. But there's something corresponding with hotspots, paranormal activity, even people seeing nightmarish visions and stuff in certain hotspots, and this plasma. And its ability to get into the ions of the earth, what that does not necessarily happen in urban locations because it can't get down to the ground. It can't reach into the ions the same way that it can because of all of the structures, electricity, buildings, busyness, that kind of thing. And I just find it very interesting because when we talk about paranormal experience, psychosis, and demon possession, you've got to wonder if this plasma stuff plays a part in all of this. Everything. Like, people have this everything, like everything's the same theory. I've heard it for years. Like aliens, ghosts, they could all be the same thing. Yeah, this plasma would kind of explain that. That kind of ability to project things. Now, we're going to take a little mini break. I'm going to go check on the doggos. It'll be about a 5-minute break, and then we're going to come back. It's not going to be a long show today, guys. I'm really, really winging it. We'll go on some more. I'll find some more stuff about plasma. I've got a couple of other videos to talk to you guys about and kind of explore this idea of mediumship and Ouija board. And are you talking to other things, or are you talking to some projection of yourself? That kind of thing. Anybody who's had an experience with this, please leave a comment. And I mean, if you are interested in coming on the show talking about this as a guest, you can contact me, of course. At I'll just pop it up here, Melissa D. Harris 77@gmail.com. As long as you're not crazy, you're not stalking me. And of course, you can also contact me at the website, theclusterfuck.com. And of course, go and follow me over at Substack, clusterfuck.substack.com. There's lots of free articles. The audio podcast is over there, but there's lots of free articles for you guys over there, and you can subscribe there. And also, you can become a channel member. If you want to support this, the way to support this before I go into break, subscribe, thumbs up right now, share the content. You can also do a super chat, a super sticker on the lives, but you can also become a member for as little as $2.99 a month. I just put a bunch of stuff up for people up on in the videos in the membership. I'll have a video probably by Wednesday this coming week. And that's a way to support the show and get these contents out. And hopefully I'll get a couple of good guests coming up in September. John Sai says, we're not stalking you, but we're crazy. That's a good crazy. The stalking part and being obsessive with people, that's what makes it a weird crazy. It gets a little weird. There are some people where I'm like, okay, you're giving me the vibes. You're giving me the heebie-jeebie vibes. It can't happen. But we're going to go into a little 5-minute intermission, and I'm going to be right back, guys. And we'll get into the other content. And be sure to share any kind of information you have on plasma, because I'm just getting this kind of interest, and I should have before, and there's just something signifying to me about plasma that's important. I'll be right back.
Observe. Don't absorb.
Alrighty. The countdown was supposed to merge. I had to change it. I don't know what was going on there. It's supposed to change to the next scene. It's probably a click of a button that I missed. Anyways, we are continuing on with the show. And of course, we were talking about plasma next. So I think I should stick with that theme for now and then tie up with some little Aquarius updates, universal updates, information, doom and dread. I don't know. It doesn't have to be doom or dread. It doesn't have to be. We talked about that on the Walter Bosley show where we have a choice we can make. We are, yes, in a collective of a bunch of people, but we're also individuals at the same time. So we have individual choices that we can make in this world. And so not everything's doom and gloom. I don't want to be like the doomer, boomer, gloomer, ex-oomer podcast here, making everyone depressed. But we're going to continue the idea of plasma because we're going to get into this idea of contact with these beings. And of course, one of those ways that you can contact beings is Ouija boards. And I'm going to show you 2 different testimonies when we get to the video part. I'm going to talk about an experience I had. And I've had experiences with Ouija boards where absolutely zero happened and I caught people trying to kind of make it happen. But I've also had a really strange experience when I was really young. And then I'm going to give you like a Christianity version. And I'm going to give you someone who's more new age, not Christian version of what's going on. And I think you'll be able to tell that kind of sort it out for yourself. And I'll kind of weigh in on it. But when I think I was about 12 years old, they kind of, my mother and other relatives, they kind of used to, play with a little Ouija board as fun and thought it was hilarious. And they were doing this at a friend's house. And we had this relative, she's passed away. Oh, I think back in 2019 or 2018, she passed away. But Jana said, I don't know if the Walter Bosley show is going to air. They might edit it up and put it out as a part 1, or you might have to redo it because there was a lot of tech problems. But I'll update you guys when that happens. So I'll find out what he's going to do. Back to the Ouija board thing. This one relative who, it says why I'm convinced that trauma fuels a lot of these paranormal things, and the government knows it as well. They've tested it enough to know that if you traumatize someone, you can make them psychic, you can make them have out-of-body experiences, you can make a lot of phenomena happen. Because one relative had a traumatic childhood, and they were doing the Ouija board and I guess tarot cards, and everything was fine. And then when she came into the room, she's a really toxic person, like really toxic. And people were uncomfortable on her. And she started arguing, I think it was with my mother. And they got in this argument, and the Ouija board like started moving or doing weird things or something like that. But it wasn't even really the Ouija board that was the problem. It was this person. And the whole room went cold. Like ice cold. It just started getting weird. People were like getting just edgy. And it was as soon as this person was in the room that things started to happen that felt really creepy and ice cold. And so ever since I saw that experience, because any other time, nothing happened, nothing moved, no paranormal. I'm always like, from a young age, I was like, it's the people. It's the people. I know it's the people. There's something with the people that make strange things happen, whether negative or positive. It's something to do with us and something with abused people that came from, because she, her father, her mother was my grandmother's sister. And her mother died when she was really young, and the father was remarried, and they were horrifically abusive people. And my grandmother rescued them and took them away from this abuse, but it was kind of too late. They were really dysfunctional. And so weird, strange phenomena followed these people. I couldn't even go into this woman's house. Let's just say I couldn't go into her house because I felt so negative when I went into her house. So if you're going to start doing things or researching or doing anything paranormal, you really got to know yourself. You got to know who you're with and who you're hanging with. Because there's some people you ought not to be doing stuff with because their own inner crazy, they're unaware of it and they could launch it out. And that's what I believe. And that's why I think the plasma stuff and the Ouija board stuff is really interesting, because a lot of people are like, there's demons, there's this, there's that. It's the same with the drug use. I'm like, no, there's pain. And there's a dark shadow, and it's turned into something that you're perceiving. You're calling it a demon. You're calling it this. There's trauma, right? And that's just how I feel about it. You can argue or present another idea. I'm more than willing to pop it up or entertain that. I'm definitely open about this. But there's something about trauma, and when you connect with trauma, and there's maybe these plasmas out there that make some really rather negative paranormal experiences. So we're going to go and look at two versions. I have one that I couldn't download. Let me see here. Was I not able to upload it? I don't know. Let's see. Nope, I got it. So I've got both of them. One I'll have to share my screen. The other one I have on video. So we will go there. Let's go for the Christian version first. Oh, Jonasai, our Mr. Incognito, was sharing his experience, Skinwalker experience, and I forgot to pop it up. He said it was an old Indian guy begging for money. He had a dog with him. I told him I didn't have any cash. A couple hours later, when I stopped at a different destination, drove further, a young drunk guy who looked exactly like the older guy, but just a younger version, with the same dog, was asking me for a light and got angry when I said I didn't. So I got the fuck out of that place. Transformation from young to old, Dracula style. It's possible. Let's look at how kind of the Catholic version of what a Ouija board will do. Then we'll go look at somebody who's more neutral, who doesn't have a religious thing and a religious context of it. We're going to entertain both perspectives.
So, like, after the Civil War, these charlatans came up with these talking boards that they were going around and visiting all the widows, saying, I can contact your dead husband, the soldier who died. If you can pay me this amount, we can do it with this talking board. And they made a lot of money off of these poor widows. And then that eventually became what was being known as the Ouija board, which was bought by Hasbro, toy company, and they're based in Salem, Massachusetts, the capital of witchcraft. And they have consultants who went into the development of these boards that became Ouija boards, and they are the first to say that they asked the board what its name is, and it said Ouija, which means nothing. And the first year they went to market, the number one board game was Monopoly, and that year Ouija boards outsold Monopoly by 1 million boards.
So we'll correct him. Ouija is yes, yes. It's like, I mean, and he could be very correct. There could be shysters trying to, get money out of widows of people from the Civil War. And this happens. There's all sorts of spiritual shysters going out there. He's gonna take the stance that's number one. It's Salem, Massachusetts. It's full of witchcraft and demons. I hate to tell you this, sir, but the people accused of witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts were not witches. They were Christians. They were falsely accused for land. You need a little bit of a more historical context that people were innocent and a little murdered, hung. One was crushed to death before the insanity was stopped. So you see the paranoia that people will get from a board. And I can almost guarantee you that anything that can happen with this board that he's just said is a fraud, that doesn't work, anything that happens with it is probably up to the person. But I digress. Let's go and share our screen, and we'll go look at the other video and see what she says about it. Let's see what her perspective is, and we'll go from there and kind of go into the Ouija board itself.
Today we're going to answer the age-old question of, are Ouija boards evil or are they bad? Me and my friend Kelsey Davies used one yesterday, and let me tell you, nothing evil came through. Let's take a look at this bad boy. I'm not saying run out and go get one. I got this one off of the A store. Ooh, spooky top of box. It's a cardboard board. Ooh, it has the moon and it has the sun. I don't know. It's the board. And I didn't know this, but this is called a planchette. So yeah, this thing, all it is plastic. There's these little soft felt feet on the bottom of it. So no, it doesn't move by itself. What you do is you sit down with a couple of people, usually 3 or 4, because the more energy you have, the better. You put this bad boy down here and you call in a spirit. Now, can you call in a spirit anytime you want? Well, spirits are around you all the time. Like, you don't call them in. They're just there. And I hate to tell you this, but you're a spirit in a body. You're really not calling anything new. You're just calling in like your best friends that are already there. You're like acknowledging that they're there. Anyways, I digress. We did this last night and we got somebody I believe was named Jason. Did I feel a spirit around? Absolutely. Am I used to spirits communicating through my mind? Yes, that is how spirits talk. They talk telepathically. Now, would I say go out and get this? Probably not. Just like with anything, with a spirit box, sitting down and like trying to channel, the connection or the channel is you. It's not this. It's not your spirit box on your phone. It's you, honey. If you are not in a good place, if you are not happy or at least content or grateful within this energetic quartz, which is your heart, then guess what? You're going to attract something that beats or that vibes at the same level as you. So people are like, oh my God, things are going to come through. No, if you believe in that, like if you believe that the D word and those things are real, guess what? You are literally conjuring it. You're bringing it in. I choose to not be on that level, sweetie. So you have a good time with that. Remember, it's just you. You have been conditioned to be afraid of this stuff. Ever since you're a little kid, you've been seeing spirits. Spirits been helping you. They've been loving you, been there to guide you. And you've only been conditioned to be afraid of it. Question that. Why do you think they're doing that? Why do they try to make you afraid of something that you actually are? Anyways, I digress. Ouija boards work. I say a little bit. Is it my preferred method of communication? No, absolutely not. Will I do it again?
Okay. So here we go. We'll add this here. We'll go in here because we'll probably use that screen again. Interesting stuff. The reason why it's not the Ouija board and it's the people, and not going to say that negative stuff doesn't exist that can come at you, is because you can use almost anything. I think it's the illusion of the tool is to make you think that it's like an aid to help you think that it's doing it, but you can use cards, you can use markers with a letter, you can use a glass, you can use a pendulum. Like people are using anything for cues and clues, so it can't just be the board with plywood that has really no energy in it. It's got to be you interacting with that kind of plasma. And I think you kind of have to be aware with that. And every time I've seen something weird go on, it was always an individual that walked in the room, and I'm like, it's that they don't you get out. It was never the board. Unless you believe in something like psychometry, where stuff can absorb somebody's energy and it lingers for a while, and you can clear that off, though. That can be cleared off over time. Perhaps something inanimate can obtain someone's energy. I think it depends on what that inanimate object is made of. I think plastic's probably not the best thing to absorb stuff, but it could. I'm going to go with wood or something more organic like that. That's probably more of a better carrier. Yeah. The Tara said, like, they don't need the object. It's not about the board, it's about the people. I can almost guarantee you that. I've just seen it over and over again. Why I'm like, well, how come it didn't work and we're not possessed by a demon? I've also heard people testify 100% that they have watched a Ouija board get up and crawl across the room, and I call bullshit on that to the highest degree. Like that did not happen unless they were on acid and hallucinating, or they were in some other world. It just simply didn't happen. But if you have a belief and you are afraid of Ouija boards and you think it's the Ouija board, I would advise you not to use it 100%. I'm better safe than sorry. I would say, well, don't have it in your house if you have that belief. But I think you have to have that belief. And I think you probably are really good at being a conductive element to speak to things. And you have to have the boundaries when it comes to communication. You can do classes. I don't know if you guys know this, like Psyche, tapping methods where you tap out stuff and you can pick up on stuff. Like it's really phenomenal. I've done them before. And they're pretty positive, you know. We didn't have a demon coming forth. We didn't have Pazuzu. I actually want to do a show where we talk about The Exorcist, what's true about Pazuzu and what's not, and go, because they actually, when they did The Exorcist, by the way, that Iraq scene, they shot that in northern Iraq in an actual archaeological site that still exists today. And there's a lot of history. I actually want to do a show where we go over that archaeological site and say what kind of Pazuzu demon gods that they actually really did, that like really existed there, that they incorporated into the movie and the book. Would be fascinating. But there's also the other element that we have to feed something like an egregore, like we have to feed it to live, like these ancient gods. If they're banned and you don't feed it, they die. If you start feeding it, they live again. And this is sort of the crux when you see the priest going on about, you know, demons and stuff. They want you to focus on the church and Jesus because they want you to feed your energy into that. That gives them power, that makes them alive. You can kind of understand that, you know, how you want your I'm calling them corporations because that's what they are, to kind of thrive on. They don't want you looking at different gods and feeding your energy and acting like Jesus doesn't exist, because then you're not feeding that sort of archetype, that form that powers their church, and that's when their church will begin to die. That's why we always have to go through these transformations. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of this push out there right now in this sort of spiritual world where they're pushing, oh, there's a demon, like you exorcists are up and they're pushing this stuff out. TP USA Faith, you're seeing a lot of this stuff about demons and priests on podcasts and religious podcasts. They're really trying to push the notion that these gods that Christianity put in the pit a long time ago and said you're not allowed to worship them, you're only allowed to worship this one God, they really don't want you talking to them. They could be right. There could be a bad lesson to learn, or not. I don't know. But I think it's important to realize it's about energy and where they want your energy to go and what they want you to feed. They don't want you communicating with your loved ones. They don't want you to have an ayahuasca journey and realize the reality of the universe or nature. They want you in a really rigid control position. But like I say, if you are uncomfortable with it and you think it's evil, you probably shouldn't use it at all, because that's probably what you'll get. You'll probably get something that's not good. Tara says that's why kids definitely should not use them. Impressionable, closer to God's source, in my opinion. Well, and with kids, they're not just impressionable. They're, girly slumbers. You get hysterical and your emotions are all over, your hormones are all over the place. All that stuff. You can get a little hysterical when you're a teenager. Good point. And I would have pointed this out on my show, but we'll point it out here first, and we'll point it out again if we cover that whole area of Iraq. Pazuzu was a protector of women and children. I mean, he was protecting from his wife, but still, yeah, Pazuzu was protecting the women and children from his own wife, who was not very nice. That's the crazy thing about the polytheism gods, is you get some good ones and you get some bad ones. You get some crazy stuff, but a lot of it's probably metaphor. Maybe his wife was supposed to be a metaphor for like miscarriage or, bad things that happen to women and children. I don't know. We'll have to delve into that. I digress. But when it comes to the Ouija board, like I'm saying, be more aware of yourself and your inner workings, because that will be the thing, that your way of interacting with this plasma, that'll be the goal, that'll be the gateway. The plasma is the gateway. That'll be the way in which things come forth in your life. Just having a look at my notes here. Yeah, is how you interact with that. So it's all inner workings. There's a reason Nisha's telling you about, looking in abysses. There's a reason that a lot of these psychoanalysis were looking in these realms and saying, well, what's real and what's not real, and questioning certain elements. I just think a lot of these priests want to terrify people, and they're kind of spreading fear when they should just be saying, look, you have to be stable and have boundaries. Like how many, like when Tara's bringing up kids, how many kids don't even know what a boundary is? They're going online. They might as well play with the Ouija. They're going online and they're engaging with people thinking these are real people and have really good intentions for them, and they're getting targeted, right? A lot of people don't understand boundaries. They get into relationships where there's no boundaries. They get into all sorts of scenarios where they are projecting and the person's mirroring back to them, and they're not even in a real situation. They just don't even know themselves fully. And so I think that's the most important part, because I'll tell you, when I've seen people pick that up and weird things happen, it was always that individual. There was always one individual that was stirring the shit, so to speak. And that same relative that I talked about earlier, she walked into my grandmother's house one time, and someone said something to her, like, and she was a grown adult by this time, 40s, 50s. Someone said something, she didn't like it, and literally a crystal container that she had given my grandma flew off and smashed. It didn't tip, it just went and smashed on the floor. Like every time she was around, weird stuff would happen, and we'd all be like, when they would tell me these stories, I said, oh, was Grace Ann there, by the way? Oh, she was? Okay, well, that's probably why it happened, because she is an inner psycho. That's her inner psycho. She probably really wanted to smash you, but she couldn't, so she smashed the crystal instead. Tara says, seems like poltergeists from around teenage girls in puberty are close to remind me that they might be plasma, if that makes any sense. It could be. And like if you're hysterical or you're scared, it's feeding off that. It's like, oh, okay, that's what you get to see. You don't get to see what it really is. You get to see what you think it is, or are afraid that it is, and I've heard all sorts of these stories from all around England, the Tor, Glastonbury, where people see strange things just come out and then disappear. Snakes and UFOs and orbs, and it could be this plasma thing. And if something comes home with you, it could be because it hitched with you because you just don't have the boundaries, or you have fear. And that it just does what you do. It's kind of like an algorithm, like it kind of pushes back what you're looking at. It's why if this internet gets really evil, we're probably helping create it at some level, I believe. At some level. I got this article here that actually talks about that. It's from New York Post. I mean, they're totally a kind of IDF, Mossad kind of butt kisser, but let's have a look at them. What do they say? AI is ushering in a new era of Satanism. Exorcists warn religious leaders. A great power. All right, Fox News, they peddle a lot of this stuff too. It says, is it the Texorcist? Oh, instead of the Exorcist, guys, it's the Texorcist. Okay, I got it. Not really funny. With religious rifts widening around the globe, an enterprising Christian leader has potentially devised a way to unite the faith against a common foe. A Mexican priest named Father Luis Ramirez Almanza is inviting rabbis, imams, and do you know, guys, do you know what this is right here? Evangelical preachers to join a special exorcism training course that, among other evils, specializes in battling the scourge of an AI fueled Satanism. Right, these guys are going for a one world religion, I swear to goodness. Artificial intelligence is a great power, for a force for both good and evil, and can therefore be used for devil worshipping. Well, you guys are already using it for devil worshipping. You're using it for war. So there you go. So yeah, there was 170 participants that came interested in performing exorcisms against AI Satanists, I guess. Well, participants are granted the authority to conduct a demonectomy. They've got their fancy words here. That license can only be bestowed by a diocesan. I can never say my words properly. Diocese bishop per Catholic canon law. The university promises on its website to deepen their knowledge of the ministry of exorcism and deliverance prayer in a serious interdisciplinary way. This year, there will be a special emphasis on AI's use among Lucifer enthusiasts. You know, Lucifer is the morning star. That's what it originally was, just talked about, a star in the sky. You guys know that, right? Father Fortunato Di Nato, a Sicilian priest who fights child sexual abuse. Oh boy, maybe you should start with your church, sir. You really should. And is speaking at a session in May, claims that some satanic groups are already experimenting with the tech. We believe these groups are using AI to generate images of children involved in satanic rites. Well, hey, look, talk to Elon Musk. He allows that stuff on X. You guys, just give him a ring. Using children appeals to them because it's a form of power being exercised over the innocent. Police tell us Satanists are using AI to hide their content online and communicate with each other. Another speaker scheduled for the course will explore how modern-day occultists are using generative AI to design ritual symbols and imagery, giving ancient mysticism a distinctly 21st century makeover. The Vatican has been increasingly vocal about the risks of runaway technology. So, as you can see, everybody has a fear with technology. I mean, I think there's something scary. Bad things can certainly happen from it. You could, I think the worst, I think they might be valid with the child pornography stuff. You know, those are valid concerns. Certainly online, because we know Roblox, all of those places has really monstrous people. But so do their own churches. Our own government is demonstrable with AI. They're going to survey us, and they'll use this. They'll say, well, we're going to monitor the AI and get the Satanists. But I guarantee you they won't get the Satanists. They'll be targeting normal human beings who are not. I guarantee you they'll use this as a fear tactic. And that's the thing that is kind of scary. It's like the thing that they did with TikTok. Oh, the Chinese will do this, the Chinese will do that. And it was just a fear tactic so they could shut it down and get it under different control because they wanted the message to be their message. So we always have to remember that the fear tactics have a reason, and I'm not always convinced by it. Because all they would have to do, excuse me, is target companies like Roblox and find these people and get them. I think it would be a lot easier than they pretend to target a lot of these people online who are doing this. You know, they could make things way safer, but they don't because of money, because they make money. So they talk about it, but they participate in it, and they don't do the real steps to shut some of this stuff down. And I think that's what disappoints me most of all about these people is they want to go to exorcisms instead of actually real physical actions that will shut things down. They don't want to shut things down and not make money. They don't want to, you know, target Roblox or any of those other places. They're just going to do an exorcism. And I can guarantee you it's never stopped a PDF file in the church, and it probably, doing an exorcism, won't stop a PDF file on Roblox or in the internet or creating AI. There has to be real physical targeted solutions for that one. So that's my take on that one. And now for the happy news. To finish this stream off, it's not going to be a long one today. Hopefully, I might be able to find a guest for next week. I don't know. I'll check it. We'll check. But the funnest of all things, a little doomy gloomy about the age of Aquarius. We're going to tie this up because I was talking with Walter yesterday about the age of Aquarius and what it means and what it's bringing in, and does it signify grand change? Will the earth end? I think it's not going to end. I think it's going to transform. I'm trying to be a little bit more realistic. But there's also, I've got a video here. This idea of the planet Neptune entering the sign of Aries. And the last time it did it was 165 years ago. So there is these big scope things like the change of Aquarius every 2100 years. 2160 years, I believe that's it, if I'm correct. And then there's other changes that happen every 100 years or so with the planet movements. And so this one's a good one to signify because the last time Neptune was in this position in Aries was during the Civil War. And what does that mean? Let's take a look at this video. I think I have to go share my screen again. We're getting planetary because people think the planets don't mean anything. But if we're in a body of plasma and we're floating around here, there's got to be some effect. These things have to have some kind of meaning. And I think that's what the church doesn't want you to know about this. They say, oh, can't go an astrologer, can't do this stuff, that's of the devil. Because it might actually show you something. I got it here on Facebook. Okay, are you ready for this, guys? I'm ready for this. The last time, I'm going to read you the text. Neptune takes about 165 years to circle the zodiac, which means it enters each sign roughly twice in a millennium. In January 2026, it entered Aries, the first time since 1861. Look at what that last Neptune in Aries stretch held. The American Civil War began in April 1861, 2 days after Neptune crossed in, and ran until 1865. So it ran for 4 years. Slavery was abolished after then. Germany and Italy unified into nations we now know. Pasteur developed pasteurization and the germ theory that rebuilt medicine. Impressionism was born. The whole period, 1861 to 1875, was one long convulsions of borders, identities, and idea being torn up and redrawn. Astrology doesn't claim Neptune caused any of it. What it does is track correlation. The observation that when this slow planet sits in this fire sign, eras of dissolved boundaries and reinvented identity tend to cluster. We're at the start of the next one. It runs until 2039. Whatever this era becomes, it's only just begun. That's a long time. Let's see what... So they're declaring that we are in this till 2039. That's a lot longer because before it was only 4 years. We only had a 4-year stretch of Neptune being in the sign of Aries. And apparently we got a lot longer. What kind of transformation, what kind of borders are going to come down? What's going to happen? What is this going to influence? I mean, these are good questions. We can only conjecture at this point. Religious borders, world orders, global. Is it tech related? They're being kind of vague about it. But it seems like when it first enters, we get some chaos, we get a war. And we've seen that. Iran. We're not doing so good at that one either. But Neptune in Aries, Neptune and Aries. We're there right now. So there could be some boundaries being kind of merged and purged. But hold on tight. It's okay. Don't panic. We're not panicking. We're not a panican or a panicat. Okay. I can't believe I say that all the time. That is such a disastrous line that came from Trump. You know, they were when you gave Trump 140 characters or whatever it was, he was funny. But once he got too many characters, you started going, gosh, I think he might be crazy. It's when they let him, Truth Social was probably not the best thing for him to do. I honestly believe it was a death sentence for him because he just started looking ranty, not witty. It's like when you let him have too many words, that's what happens. There's some people, when you let them have many words and they can explain, they're mesmerizing. I don't know what this means, but we're going to go with it. So that's an interesting concept with the planets. I think we'll try to do more stuff like this at the section where we talk about some astrological stuff. I didn't even know this was happening till now. So this has been happening for 8 months. Guys, we've got like 13 more years of this. Can we even handle it? I don't even know if I can take it. Maybe I should move out to the wilderness. Maybe I'll have more of this plasma experience. I'm going to talk to my husband about this. Should we be, trying to, we don't want to ruin it because maybe if everybody does that, we'll ruin the plasma experience. Maybe you have to be alone. Maybe you have to be in areas where there's less people and more nature for it to have a effect, which would explain why it works in places like Skinwalker Ranch or in the Appalachians where people say they have spooky experiences. I don't know. You guys can tell me what you guys think in the comments. I'm going to wrap this show up. That was it for our little Q&A answers. I didn't see too many experiences. Mike shared his cool Skinwalker Ranch experience. That would definitely disturb me. Especially, you're driving your truck or your vehicle and you're alone a lot and you get some kind of creepy experience on the road. That's a lot to handle. We got to take a more look at this. We've got to keep our eye on the plasma and see where it's going. I might have to get a plasma guest. I'll say this and I'll forget. Let's plasma guest. Let's find someone who likes to talk about plasma, because I suspect we are in a body of something that's similar to our own, and this plasma is like dark matter, And they are trying to start saying that there is no dark matter around. They're switching their minds about that. But plasma is fascinating. What was that book called again? If you want, I'll post about it in the post section on the YouTube page. I'll find that book that was in the video and let you know what it is in case you want to check it out, see if it's audio. But I kind of want to look at it a little bit more. And that girl was also on the Asset for Squares podcast. I'm pretty sure she was talking about plasma and its power and how strong it is and the effects it has on our psyches and what we see and what we experience in the paranormal. So guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Remember, thumbs up, subscribe. We're on Rumble. We are on YouTube. We are on Substack. And we are on Twitch. You can go check out the show in those locations. Just simply go to theclusterfuck.com and you will see all the links there. If you are on the audio podcast, remember, give us 5 stars. I think it's 5. Give us the most stars. Rate our show. Give us the good. Give us the goods. And tune in next Sunday. And of course, become a member. That'll be the best if you become a member. We've got a whole archive of stuff for you over there. But I will see you guys next Sunday, and take care. And observe, don't absorb.
Observe.